Welcome back, Bills Mafia. This is your host, Izzy, right here on the Redzone Report, built in Buffalo, YouTube, Facebook, and X. We're here to talk about training camp. Training camp is coming up, and it's coming up fast. Right in my hometown of Rochester, New York. Technically the suburb of Pittsford, excuse me. And yeah, we're going to talk about expectations. So let's talk about it. Welcome, everybody. It's your host, Izzy, right here on the Built in Buffalo Redzone Report. And yeah, we're here to talk about training camp coming up right here in the next week or two. And it's going to be in Rochester, New York. And the Bills, especially guys like Josh Allen, love going to training camp and spending time with the guys in the dorms and you know, the camaraderie building and just getting away from the monotony of normal life and going away to camp. And so they're not going very far. They're only going about an hour and a half away to Pittsford, New York, which is awfully close to where I'm from. But yeah, it's crazy. Football's, you know, coming upon us pretty quickly, and I can't wait till we get to the season. You know, the preseason is going to come, and we're going to be bored, but we're going to break stuff down and figure out who's going to make the team and who's not. And so I just want to preview training camp. This might not be a long show. It might be longer than I expect. I have no idea, but we're going to try and get through this, right? And we're going to talk about the expectations we have for training camp and what that is going to help this team build for the future of the season. We all know that training camp and the preseason are used to figure out who's going to make the team. They'll bring in some guys. They'll cut some guys. You know, if someone's not working out so much, the Bills don't usually hesitate to push somebody out the door. And there we go, July 23rd at 9:45. So less than a month from now, about 3.5 weeks. And man, it's gonna be a blast. I'm hoping to get up to Rochester for a day of camp. And you know, it's been a while since I've been to Rochester for camp. Usually I go to the red, white, and blue game, but man, this is gonna be fun this year because the offense is bringing back so many of these same players. I've said this a few times before in other shows. The only two guys we really lost were Amari Cooper and Mac Hollins, and we brought in Joshua Palmer and Elijah Moore, Laviska Shenault, and so these guys are familiarizing themselves with the system. Now, Joe Brady does not seem to be the type of coach who tries to force puzzle pieces to fit where they don't fit, right? Watching some of his interviews, he believes in positionless wide receivers. Let's see. Jacob says, I bet you $500 Josh Allen makes the team. Okay. And my man TJ Paluca, breakdown equals don't lose more than 4 regular season games and earn home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Win Super Bowl, move on, go Bills. I like that. Short, simple, sweet, to the point. That's what I'm hoping for too. But we got to talk about the journey. Training camp is the beginning of the journey for these 91 players that are on this roster. Then we'll talk about, you know, what these coaches are going to do. Because I put the coaches, you know, the OC and the DC as my thumbnail for a reason. They're going to be pivotal for how these players are used and what these guys are going to be able to do within the scheme, right? So, like I was saying, Bobby Babich and Joe Brady don't seem to be the kind of guys who try to fit puzzle pieces where they don't fit, right? So he's not going to try and force somebody to do something that they're not good at. He's going to try and use them to the best of their abilities. And also look for latent things that we haven't seen from them yet in their professional careers, but if they can do them, then he'll use that too. Example, we brought in Curtis Samuel last year. He was injured for most of the year. As the later part of the season came out, he started playing a lot better than in the beginning of the season. He started showing out and making some nice plays for us. They found ways to use him outside of, what we thought he was going to be used for. Granted, he still is limited by his own ability. I think that he's going to try and figure out how to make his offense work better around the player, right? You'll see 𝐾𝐨𝐲, 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐞, Coleman, Joshua Palmer, Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel. You'll see them all line up inside, outside trips, have some of them in the backfield at times. Last year, we saw Curtis Samuel in the backfield a lot. We saw 𝐾𝐨𝐲 a lot in the backfield as well. We got a lot of 𝐾 sounds at receiver. Keon, Curtis, Khalil. Yeah. You'll see these guys line up anywhere, right? The way that Joe Brady draws up his offense is really interesting because it's extra creative. And I don't think we're used to that in Buffalo. We had Dable, who was very creative with Josh in the offense, but he was still kind of rigid. And the whole Ken Dorsey thing where it was just digs. And then we got Joe Brady. And what Joe Brady did was he moved this offense to a spot where we were really multiple, right? We ran the ball a lot more. The offense became balanced. For years. We were talking about we need to balance the offense. We need to run and pass 50-50. I don't know necessarily subscribe to that ideology for the passing game. But what I do subscribe to is make it work, protect your quarterback, and protect your assets, right? Your receivers, you don't want your quarterback throwing them into danger, getting smashed at the end of the route. Josh has learned to not be that guy. He never really was that guy too much, but there were some times younger in his career where Cole Beasley's ending up upside down, flipped on his head into the end zone. Josh seems a lot more mindful about how he's using his targets, and I think that that's going to really be something that Joe Brady is able to use as a tool and make sure that things are going right. But John Robert, coaches were impressed with Keon Coleman. I hope so. They drafted him, first pick after the first round, first pick in the second round. They drafted Keon Coleman, right? I hope that they use the hell out of him. But at the same time, this isn't everybody eats offense. He better learn how to block. No block, no rock. This team is very selfless. They don't like guys who are me. And when you listen to Keon Coleman talk about himself, Keon Coleman said, look, last year, not going to lie, that shit was ass. That was his word. Shit was ass. He's like, it's either good or it's not good. Doesn't matter from 21, or 31. I'm in the NFL. I measure by the same measuring stick as everybody else. That mentality is crucial. I really like that mentality that he has there. Really holding himself accountable. That is big for a young man like that. He's very young, but he doesn't care. He wants to hold himself to the same standard that receivers around the NFL are held to. Bravo. I really appreciate that from him. See, your thoughts on occasional no-huddle offense. We have enough offensive wide receiver rotation to do this every now and again. I like that idea because if you have a defense reeling, you force them to use their timeouts so that way they can, make their adjustments. Or if they get caught in a defense where their personnel isn't fitting what we're doing and we're just running it down their throat or just picking them apart, the no-huddle will help you keep that personnel on the field and keep you with the advantage. So I think that is not a bad idea. But again, that's on Joe Brady. I wouldn't mind seeing that, though. It's not a terrible idea. See, Brady did create a balance. You're right. Thanks, Kim. My man Kim, always here for me. He did create more balance, but before Joe Brady, we were like heavy pass. And now, like, I think the balance is we run the ball more than we pass it. And we were definitely passing it way more than we ran it before. So it's kind of a shift in the other direction. Hi, Miss Nancy. How you doing? Mama Presidente. She's President Lance's mom, by the way. That's why I say that. El Jefe, Lance, my guy. But he created this balance where we run more, but you're seeing more production out of Josh with less snaps that are for passing downs. So he's going to go out there, and he's also able to audible into runs and out of runs if he needs to. You know, he's with his maturity, they're giving him more responsibility. They're giving him more ability to make decisions as he sees the defense, right? Because he's the quarterback. He doesn't have that superstar wide receiver anymore. He doesn't have some linchpin holding him to a certain amount of targets. He now has the ability to be free with how he plays. And he took advantage of that freedom last year, won himself an MVP. And so the Bills, I think, by not going after super stud number one wide receivers like Devontae Adams and whoever else was out there, they chose the balance of Josh being able to be a read and react quarterback and make decisions on the fly and not have to pinpoint target anybody. And then you also have the run game, which is giving Josh the ability to keep defenses honest. And the offensive line is really, really, really good. Like they're top 2, top 3 in the NFL. No doubt about it. With Ray Davis and James Cook running the ball the way they do it. And then you have the receivers who are blocking. Like last year we had Mac Hollins, and Mac Hollins was excellent blocker. And this year we don't have Mac Hollins. I still expect to see willing blockers from our receivers. I expect 𝐾𝐿 Coleman to take some of that responsibility on. He's a big, strong wide receiver, big, strong boy. Go out there, smash some guys like Mac Hollins did. Learn from the person that they brought in for you to learn from, right? He was brought here for a reason. He was not brought back for a reason. What that second one is, I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to be here, or maybe he got more money where he was going. I have no idea. Brandon Bean mentioned something about it. I wasn't worried about it at that point, but I was hoping. I was really hoping. See, Jim Kelly was king of the no huddle play. He was definitely that K-gun offense was nasty. Jim Kelly kept teams on their toes, and when they couldn't match power for power, strength for strength, they had to call timeouts and adjust. See, like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. Let's go, baby. Come on, you're on Facebook. John, jump over on YouTube. Give me some likes and some shares. So, yeah, I still don't feel we are a lock at CB. Benford is a beast. I don't know. Maxwell Harrison, obviously unproven. Trey White, injury prone. And you did correct yourself, prone. So Trey White, I think, is going to be more of a teacher role, mentor role. If he goes into play, I trust Trey White's ability. He didn't get hurt last year, so that's a good sign. And now he's 2 seasons removed from his last injury. So I think that there's going to be some ways he's going to assist his team. He's only getting paid $3.6 million, I think, and that's with incentives. So he's where he wants to be, and he's willing to mentor. That's a big thing for Trey White. So we'll get to the defense soon enough, but he's a valuable piece here, I think. See, I think Hollins thought grass was greener with the money upgrade he got. Hey, it is what it is. I like Mac Hollins, and I wish him the best in life, but in football, I hope you stub your toe, man. Just you went to the Patriots. You went to the enemy. But for real, I hope that he gets everything that he's supposed to get. He came to Buffalo, he did his thing, and I hope that he's happy with his decision. See, Elijah Moore was Josh Palmer. Elijah Moore, Josh Palmer are playing well so far. In OTAs, yeah. Remember, the pads come on in camp. So we're going to see the physicality. Right now, that was all technique and, flag football-ish type stuff. We're going to see when these pads go on what happens and who's who. I like what I saw in OTAs, but OTAs are gone, and the review of OTAs was 2 weeks ago. So now we are 2 weeks after that, and this preview of training camp. I think that you might see some things out of some of the bigger guys. When I say bigger, I do mean size. Keon Coleman, Laviska Shenault, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, Reggie Gilliam, like the guys who have, some weight behind them shoulders. If they want it, if they have the dog in them, which a lot of these guys we know do, they're going to be the ones who are able to take advantage of the pads being on, right? Now, that's not to say that the smaller guys like Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel and Maxwell Hairston aren't going to shine. It's just to say that it benefits them to be in shorts. They're not getting hit. They don't have to lug around any of that armor. They're just out there having fun with it. The big guys are coming with pads now. We're going to see TJ Sanders out there. We're going to see Connor McGovern. We're going to see Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown and Dwayne Carter and Hoyt and Bosa and Javon Solomon and Ejibinesa and Groot. We're going to see the big boys are now going to have an even playing field with the little guys. See, I'm hoping Dalton is going to have an impressive third year. This is usually the year for tight ends. Year 3 is the year for tight ends. If you look at most tight ends that were really good throughout history, they stepped up in year 3. Like that's when they usually clicks for them. Sometimes you get a guy who comes out the gate like Antonio Gates, pun intended, or a guy like last year Brock Bowers or Sam Laporta the year before. Like you get a guy who comes out the gate and they storm the gate. And some guys take a couple years. Look at Dawson Knox. First 2 years we were kind of he drops the ball too much. Third year, his drop rate dropped significantly, and he had an excellent year his third year. Then we drafted Dalton Kincaid, but neither here nor there. The Bills are in a good spot. I think Dalton Kincaid is going to be outstanding this year. But again, I don't see them forcing the ball to anybody, but if him and Josh can get on the same page, he can be a true safety blanket for Josh Allen. So I think that the big plan on offense, because so much is the same when it comes to the players and the personnel, and he said outright, look, we can't do the same stuff we did last year, right? We have to change some things up. We can't just continue on the same path. We have to grow. And so you'll see probably some new packages in the offense. You'll see some things that we did last year that didn't work very well thrown out. And I think that you'll see some additions to the offense, especially since we have new characters like Elijah Moore and Joshua Palmer, who don't play like Amari Cooper and Mac Hollins. They are a very different level of receiver, not level, but different type of receiver than those guys are. We don't have a 230-pound receiver like Mac Hollins anymore. Right, we have Keon Coleman, who's probably like 215 or 225, 220, who's now going to probably take over that kind of big, beefy receiver spot. But we also don't have, the Amari Cooper, the number one receiver guy who, beats people with his feet. Elijah Moore is kind of that, but he's more of a speedster. Amari Cooper was not a speedster, so to speak, not at this point in his career. And so when you look at the way these guys play, Elijah Moore is more of a tactician and a route runner. He can get down the field. He's got top speed. He can take the roof off this, off of a defense for the Bills offense. Josh Allen can really use that to an advantage. He didn't have that at all last year. We didn't have a guy taking the tops off of defenses. We didn't have that, elite route runner outside of Khalil Shakir, who really is good at that within the short space and some intermediate stuff, but he's more of your get the first down kind of guy. That's what Khalil Shakir is. He keeps the chains moving. Joshua Palmer gets open deep. He is a route winner. He gets past the first level and then finds space. The scheme is going to have to evolve with the roster evolution. Again, it's only 2 guys really. And barring injuries, and then having someone step up like maybe Tyrell Shavers, who would then be as big as Mack Hollins. Maybe he learned something from him, and he's been looking good in OTAs again. No pads, but he's a big guy. Tyrell Shavers is a big guy, so it's going to benefit him to put pads on and then to work Maxwell Harrison. Like he was beating Maxwell Harrison just based on size with no pads and no hitting. He's about to get his pads. There's about to be some cracking going on at camp. Some people are about to get hit. So buckle up, Buttercup. It's coming. And that's kind of where I see the OTAs changing things, because we've seen what we've seen, no pads. When they're allowed to crack, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. They're going to be hitting people. And we love it, but we also want to make sure we don't have any injuries. We don't want our players, coming up limping, getting hurt. They're teammates, so they're going to, be careful with that. But at the same time, they're not going to not compete. They're going to go out there and they're trying to earn a job on the Bills roster. Like, the Bills roster is hard to make. This is not an easy roster to make. There's competition at every position, right? Elijah Moore's on a 1-year contract. If he goes out there and stinks up the joint in training camp and he doesn't make the team because he stunk it up in training camp, even though he was excellent OTAs, they can get rid of him. I don't think that they would. I don't think that's going to happen. But you still have to expect the unexpected. You have to expect that something that you didn't think was going to happen is going to happen. And the Bills are, in my opinion, more prepared for that stuff this year than they were in years past. Even though we've made the playoffs, 6 of the last 7 years, and we've won the division 5 years in a row, doesn't matter. So do you think the tight end we drafted will do some of the blocking Hollins did last year? That is actually a pretty good point. I didn't think about that because I thought about him mostly as a tight end, but Mack Hollins did play an inline tight end role at times. He was out there blocking safeties and getting to linebackers. And because he's 230 and most NFL linebackers are about that same size, he had success blocking those guys and opening up holes. So Jackson Hawes, he's a guy who can definitely take that role if he's fast enough. I'm not sure if he's got Mack Hollins' speed, but if he does, good for him, because that will make him even more of an asset to this team. So I'm hoping that he's able to do some of that stuff. I'm hoping we see some more use of more tight end sets. I think that we're going to run the ball a lot more through those big tight end sets, 13 personnel, 12 personnel. And you probably even see some of those guys lining up in the backfield, right? You maybe have James Cook, Jackson Hawes, and Reggie Gilliam in the backfield. I think you'll see this more later in the season when defenses are more worn out and you have the opportunity to really bulldoze through them. I think you'll see that then. You'll see them in big packages. I really like the fact that Jackson Hawes is the type of guy who is a blocker, but he can also catch. So they're going to have to scheme some of that in there for him too, because he finds pockets and zones, apparently, from what we've seen in OTAs. Now, again, OTAs are over. We're now moving to training camp. And the bigger questions clearly on this team lie on the defensive side of the ball. Last year, we were second in the NFL in regular season points scored, and we were first in the NFL if you count regular season and the playoffs. We were number one, wasn't close. Regular season, we were 40 points behind the Lions, and we made up for that in the playoffs. The offense is where we have the least concern, I think, as fans. Like, I'm not that worried. We got Josh Allen. The whole offensive line's coming back. He was the least sacked quarterback in football last year. He was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in football last year. The running game was efficient last year. James Cook were over 5 yards a carry. Ray Davis at right around 4. Ty Johnson catching everything thrown his way, including that amazing catch he had in the back of the end zone. I think it was against the Lions, but I could be wrong there. But we got some ballers on offense. We're not as worried about that so much, right? The offense is going to be what it is, and Joe Brady is an offensive genius from what we've seen in his past. What he did with LSU and Joe Burrow, then boys down there, and then what he did with the Saints was pretty good, and that got him the job over at LSU. Then he went to, what was it, Carolina, where he had Curtis Samuel 850 yards, and two other receivers, DJ Moore, had over 1,000 yards. The other receiver had more than 1,000 yards, and Teddy Bridgewater was their quarterback. So I'm less concerned about the offensive side, even though I spent 25 minutes talking about them. It's just the nuance of the game. Now, defense is much more simple than the offense, because offense is the one dictating what happens on the field. The defense is either reacting to it, reading it, or trying to scout it before it happens. So that way they are prepared for it. But a cover two concept is much more simple than an RPO with 3 routes. It just is. You know, a mesh concept with a deep curl, or whatever concept you're running on offense. It's going to be a little bit more complicated than most defenses. You know, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, cover 6, cover 9, which is awfully similar to cover 6. Basically, just reverse the coverage from what the line's doing. And you got cover 6. Cover 1 man, single high safety, two high safety man coverage, zone blitz, man blitz. Like, there's just not that much stuff that complicates defenses. The offense's job is to complicate what the defense is doing, but the play calling on defense is super simple. And so there's not as much nuance to that. Now, you can do some exotic stuff on defense. Now, I don't want to say that all defenses are super simple, because if you look at guys like Rex Ryan, which I know Bills fans don't necessarily have the best memories of when it comes to on the field, but that defensive scheme was nasty that Rex Ryan had. It was nasty. And so when he was with Baltimore, when he was with the Jets, that defense was always cooking. It was always humming. He ran a very exotic defense. He ran a really exotic 3-4. It's easier to be exotic out of a 3-4 than a 4-3, because you have less guys on the line, more guys out in space, creating havoc for an offense and reading the offense. I do like the 3-4 defense for that, but for stability and keeping things simple and basic, the 4-3 defense is better. That's what we run. Basically a 4-2-5, which is a branch of a 4-3. And Bobby Babich is going to have his work cut out for him, right? Because he's got a lot of young guys. He's got a lot of rookies on that defense. Maxwell Hairston, Dorian Strong, freaking TJ Sanders, Landon Jackson. He's got a lot of young players coming on his defense that he's going to have to train up and get right. Make sure that they are prepared. You know, then there are also guys who were rookies last year that are returning, and Dwayne Carter, Javon Solomon, Cole Bishop. Our defense is pretty young. Let's see. Internet says Jackson Hawes is 6'4", 254 pounds, and runs a 4.82. That sounds accurate, but also I'm not looking at it directly. If you type in Jackson Hawes and then 40 time, Jackson Hawes 40 time, it'll give you one of the options is the NFL Combine measurements, and you can check it there. That's usually what I do. In fact, I'll do it real quick for you. Jackson Hawes 40 time. Bam. That's AI right there, but right below it, NFL.com. There we go. Draft and Combine prospect profile. Jackson Hawes, 6'4.5", 253 pounds, 32 1/8 arm length, 9 1/8 inch hand. His athleticism grade was a 70, which is in the green. Production score was a 63, which is yellow. Total score 69, which is 1 point in the yellow. He ran a 4.82, 156 10-yard split. Vertical jump of 34.5, broad jump of 10 foot 1 inches. Shuttle time of 4.4, and a bench press of 16. So not bad, not bad. He's a 5th round pick, and he's got a designed role, but I don't think that they're going to put him in that box. Bobby Babich himself said, you don't put somebody like that in a box. Right? You don't box anybody up. You don't have expectations for a specific player based on, what you think. You have to just let the offense play itself and see who gets what. That's it. That's what everybody eats means. And so we'll see how much everybody eats. But back to the defensive stuff. all these young guys that are expected to either start or play meaningful snaps for the Buffalo Bills. You look at the defensive line alone. If you're looking at starters, you're talking about Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, Joey Bosa, most likely on the other side of Groot, and then our big guy. What the heck's his name now? Daquan Jones, right? That's your starter. But when you look at the guys rotating in with them, you're looking at Landon Jackson, T.J. Sanders, Dwayne Carter. You're looking at guys like Javon Solomon. A.J. Epinesa is likely a trade candidate, but I don't know if they'll trade him. He does seem to like it here in Buffalo. He gets 6 sacks a year, so I'm not going to complain about production like that. Based on his pay, he's giving us what he's worth. So I don't mind A.J. Epinesa. I know a lot of people who have a thing where they don't like it because they're hoping for more because he was a second-round pick. But he is who he is. He's a 6 sack, 40% of the snaps kind of guy. There you go. You got that guy. If you can count on a guy for a certain number and he's consistent with it, there's nothing wrong with that guy, right? There's just nothing wrong with it. He's consistent. Passing downs, put him out there, 3rd and 13, let him get after the quarterback. Even if he doesn't get the sack, if he can hurry the quarterback and get the ball out of there, not on time, that's fine. But you look at the youth on that defensive line alone, like most of the second-tier guys I said, the rotational guys I said, Landon Jackson, T.J. Sanders, Dwayne Carter, Javon Solomon, like these guys are all 1 year in the NFL or younger, right? They're not guys who've been in the NFL for a long time. They're not seasoned veterans. These guys are young guys, and the guys like Javon Solomon, Cole Bishop, Dwayne Carter, they now get a off season with the Buffalo Bills. They now don't have to worry about a combine. They don't have to worry about bench presses, 40-yard dashes, and vertical jumps. They don't got to worry about none of that stuff no more. Now all they have to worry about is learning the scheme, getting in when they fit in, figuring out their technique and what they feel is most comfortable for them in the NFL, and understanding what the coaches expect of them once they're on the field. That is crucial to those guys coming in their second year. Now, the rookie guys are going to go through basically what they went through last year. It's a lot of dudes. Then you count Maxwell Harrison, Dorian Strong, Cole Bishop, who I did mention, but these are the guys not on the line. We didn't draft a single linebacker this year, which is a little weird because the last couple of years we've been drafting linebackers, but they did draft Edefon Ulofoshio last year. We got him 3 more years. Dorian Williams is starting to come on, and we have Matt Milano fully healthy and Terrell Bernard fully healthy. And when they were both fully healthy together, man, they played beautiful ball together. I'm hoping that they can stay healthy throughout the year, and that's going to be another big thing that this defense and training staff of the Buffalo Bills is going to have to be focused on. There you go. My man says Greg Rousseau is only 25 also. Now, when I say age, I don't necessarily mean like the years old they are, right? Because when we drafted Tremaine Edmonds, right, he was 19 years old. He was a teenager still, right? And he played well in our defense. I think that it wasn't really a scheme fit, but he didn't 𝐿𝐴 us, like where he was not a scheme fit, so he just sucked in our defense. He played well. Didn't have the splash plays like Terrell Bernard did, but he also didn't really get hurt like Terrell Bernard's been getting hurt. And Tremaine Edmonds has some good things to say about Buffalo. I think it was really more of a money move. But what I'm talking about is the guys who came in last year, Cole Bishop, Dwayne Carter, and Javon Solomon. These guys all came in after the combine and all that stuff. They had to get their bodies all out of whack in order to do the most athletic stuff that they could do at the combine. And then they get to the NFL, and now here's your playbook. All right, let's go, and we're going to do some install. And their hair was on fire last year, and now the guys we just drafted, they're going to have that same issue. Deion Walker, it's not going to be as fun as it is going to be next year for them. And that's for every draft class and everybody, every team. And some rookies can pick it up faster than others, but they are rookies. And a lot of those rookies, again, are on defense. You look at this defense, I think we all expect the starting defensive line I mentioned to be starters, and Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano to be starters. The secondary is where all the questions are. Like Trey White. He might beat out Maxwell Harrison for the starting job this year. But Maxwell Harrison, I think we all expect to win the starting job. I hope that no one is really disappointed if Trey White wins the job because he's got so much more experience and knows this defense like the back of his hand. However, I still hope and expect that Maxwell Harrison wins that starting job alongside Terrell Bernard. We all know Taron Johnson's the nickel. We all know that, right? Safety is a conundrum. We all pretty sure that Taylor Rapp is going to be starting safety number one, right? He's going to be a starter. They love him. I know some of Bills Mafia doesn't love him, but the Bills love him. We have the other safety spot where there's going to be a competition between Cole Bishop, DeMar Hamlin, Derrick Forrest, the other rookie from Ohio State. His name is Jordan Hancock, who also might be, competing with Cam Lewis for the slot spot because he's a slot safety. So to me, it screams, box safety. But if he's actually playing the slot as a big nickel, there's so much going on with the secondary that we don't know really what to expect. So training camp is going to answer some of those questions for us. We're going to see them on the field in pads, giving effort, and we'll see, hey, this is training camp. The media is going to be out there and able to take videos. Fans are going to be out there and taking videos. We're going to get video clips from the Buffalo Bills on their website and on their YouTube page, showing Josh Allen throwing darts or Dorian Strong making an interception or Dorian Williams making a tackle for a loss or TJ Sanders getting blown up or blowing up the David Edwards and Connor McGovern. Like, there's going to be so much that goes on. And I saw your comment, John Robert. This is, in fact, Joe Andreessen's second year in the NFL. He went to Bryant College and then he went to Buffalo and undrafted. Joe Andreessen's impressed me quite a bit. He's impressed me quite a bit. I would not be surprised to find out that he is the backup middle linebacker on this team. Push come to shove. I know we brought in Shaq from the Panthers. I don't know how much he's got left in the tank. I don't know if he's going to be able to beat out a guy in Joe Andreessen who's got so much youth and athleticism in him. Bobby Hall, what's up, baby? But this defense is really going to be, as my man Kim says, they'll be under the microscope. This defense is going to get nitpicked. If I'm Sean McDermott, right? If I'm Sean McDermott and I'm looking at this team, it's like, yo, we scored 30-plus points per game last year. Joe, you got this. Bobby, let's figure some stuff out. 2 eyes on these guys is good. 4 eyes on these guys is going to be better. Like, we're going to get both of us in here looking and seeing what we want out of our defense, and then we can tweak and tune it, and we can decide who's going to be starting and who's not, who's going to be on this team and who's not with Brandon Beane, and then see what's going on, because the defense is really the unit that needs to improve. We had a top 5 defense, top 10 defense all of the first 6 years. Year 7, for some reason, we were like 23rd or something like that. We were the bottom half of the league. We're not used to having a bottom half of the league defense. We're used to having a bottom half of the league run defense, sure, but not total defense. The wheels fell off last year on defense. We need the wheels to be put back on this thing, aired up, lug nuts tightened, and we need this thing ready to rip some freaking street up. We need to get back on the road. Right? Shaq Thompson is depth and leadership. He and he can play both linebacker spots. I expect him to be the guy that knocks Baylon Spector off this roster if he's healthy, because Shaq Thompson was injured last year too, but he's not oft injured like Baylon Spector. And I like Baylon Spector on special teams, I really do. But on defense, he's a bit of a liability in coverage. Solid blitzer. Like, if you get Baylon Spector blitzing, solid at that. Solid mover, good athlete. He's just not good in coverage. He's got short arms for a linebacker. And then the injuries. Like, when we found out he got hurt in OTAs, like, who was surprised? No pads, got hurt. That's crazy. And so, looking at the way this team is constructed, they've got a bunch of guys who we think are going to start on defense. That entire defensive line I mentioned, from Groot to Jones to Oliver to Bosa, and then you look at the linebackers and Bernard and Milano, and you look at the corners and you go Hairston and you go Benford and Taron, and you're like, that's most of the defense right there. And then the safeties is where it's at that we're really confused about. But there's no telling who's making this team at corner right now. We have so many corners. We've got Benford, Hairston, Trey White, Dane Jackson, right? That's just 4 right there. Dorian Strong, who Dane Jackson and Dorian Strong probably going to be competing for a roster spot. Then you look at the guy behind Taron Johnson and Cam Lewis. He's got a competition now with Jordan Hancock. Then we've got Ingram, right? Jamarcus Ingram, when he was called upon last year, he was out freaking standing. He could be a reason why we don't keep Trey White or something like that, which I don't think is going to happen again. But he's been getting better every year. Last year against the Dolphins, he picked 2 off twice? Took 1 to the house? I'm not saying that's difficult for the Bills because we kind of got to his number, but we didn't have Rasul Douglas in that game, if I remember correctly. It was either him or Benford out. And our boy, Jamarcus Ingram's out there pick sixing and giving us a reason to put him on the field. Like, cornerback is going to be some hard decisions for the Buffalo Bills. And the way that they try and construct this defense and they scheme up this defense is really going to be what determines who comes and who goes. Outside of the Tre'Davious White and Shaq Thompsons of the world, who are really here to help coach up these guys and be depth. And if they got to play, you trust them to play. But if they don't got to play, then they'll be inactive on game days most likely. You'll have a Shaq Thompson and Trey White inactive on game day. And they're out there coaching them up, but they'll be getting, their check and making their money to be on the roster. And I'm good with that. But there's so many young people in his defense that I'm hoping that Bobby Babich Jr. can really get to them as a young coach, as a young mentor, because I think he's got a future as a head coach in the NFL. And Joe Brady does too. And here's the thing. This might be Joe Brady's last year with the Bills. I think inevitably it is, right? Because if it goes poorly on offense, then he probably won't be brought back, right? But if it goes so damn good again, he's going to get snatched. Someone's going to try and hire him to be head coach, whether it's the Saints or the Cowboys or the Dolphins, because we all know Mike McDaniels is getting fired, or someone like that's going to try and hawk our coaching staff. I see you guys. I see Sandra in the comments. You're amped. I'm amped with you. Yeah, I'm very amped. Man, John Robert, Dane Jackson might be practice squad. I almost guarantee it. Dane Jackson, to me, isn't making this roster ahead of clearly Benford and Hairston, Trey White, and I don't think he's going to beat out Dorian Strong. I think Dorian Strong is going to make this roster. And I think Dane Jackson on the practice squad makes sense, being that he came off of an injury last year, being that we have such depth at corner. You put him on the practice squad, when somebody gets hurt, they go to IR, boom, bring up Dane Jackson. You're now on the main roster. That easy. That freaking easy. I think the Buffalo Bills have set themselves up with tons of depth at every level of the defense. Safety's where we're a little questionable, right? I have faith that Cole Bishop is going to come out and win that job. I'd prefer for DeMar Hamlin not to start. That's my preference. I prefer for him not to start. My preference would be he goes to the practice squad along with Dane. I'm hearing good things about this other guy we picked up. And some Bills fans have told me, hey, look out for this guy at safety. And I keep forgetting his name, so I'm going to pull his name up real quick. And these shows go a lot smoother when I'm in my bag like this. I don't sound crazy. But football is so close. It's right around the corner. Like, we get ball soon. Even if it's preseason ball, we're out here. Who's going to make this roster? There's a position battle here. I can't wait to see what Tyrell Shavers does, what Eli Moore does. I can't wait to see what happens here. It's really so much fun for me right now. Safety, Wande Owens. Wande Owens is a guy who I've heard about. Yep, John Roberts said it before I even got to look it up. What's wrong with Hamlin? Hamlin is an excellent tackler, about 10 yards down the field. He's a liability in coverage. He had a couple interceptions this past year, but he kind of fell into those. Like there's one where he was basically in the box and QB was rushed and he was just there. Boop! Oh, hit me in the chest and caught the ball. Hit me in the chest, probably not the best choice of words with Damar Hamlin, but hit him in the numbers. And he's just not the best athlete. I don't want to see him starting. I don't mind him being on the team. Like if he makes the team and fine, but I don't want him starting. He's not a good starting safety. He's a good backup safety. You guys, like when Micah Hyde went down and he came in for him, he played well enough, right? But he didn't play anywhere near Micah Hyde level. He kept us above water. But we also had less injuries at linebacker then. We didn't have injuries to Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano when he was playing. We had, top tier Trey White and then, youthful Christian Benford out there starting at corner. The defensive line was much better at containing the run. This year we were terrible at it. Like we were bottom of the barrel. And so if the front seven isn't in harmony, safety is a lot harder to play. I prefer for Damar Hamlin not to be my starter. That's just the way I feel about it. I like the story. I like the human being. I'm fine with him being on the roster. I just I think that the practice squad is more suited for him. You can't wait to see Landon Jackson brings this year. Landon Jackson has so much potential. He the growth I saw when I started watching the film on him at Arkansas, in college in general, like just the growth he showed in technique. He's still a little raw, but man, he's got a motor on him. He doesn't give up, and he's got some heavy hands. So I really like what I see out of him thus far, but the pads are coming on. I said it earlier in the show. Pads are coming on. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping that he fights to, push somebody potentially off the roster, even if it's somebody I like an 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿. But I really like what I saw out of the tape. When you look at his freshman year and moving on, there was improvement in his game. What's another thing here? Safeties. Derek Forrest is a guy who we'll be paying attention to, along with Wande Owens. Jordan Hancock, where he lines up is going to be very, very interesting, right? Because he's probably going to be on the second team if it's nickel or anything like that, maybe even third team because Cam Lewis is still on the squad. And so you can see Cam Lewis being that backup nickel guy. Also, I heard some decent stuff about the 𝐾𝐨. So, again, no pads on. Pads coming cracking. Let's see who's backing because these Buffalo Bills are not playing games. The coaching staff made sure they loaded up on talent with potential and athleticism, and the Bills are here to win a Super Bowl, I hope. Like this should be our year. Right? Josh Allen showed he can do it. No Diggs needed. Diggs was needed for growth and for maturing. Now you got Josh Allen in his prime, ready to kick some ass, take some names, hopefully win a Super Bowl, bring a ring to them Bills. He got his ring this offseason. Let's get him another one next offseason. Right? Let's have him doubling up them pinky rings because he deserves it, and I think the city of Buffalo deserves it. Bills Mafia deserves it. These players are. We got some damn good players. We don't have too many superstar players, right? We got Joey Bosa, former superstar, maybe can reprise that role. Trey White, former superstar, first team All-Pro. We'll see what happens there. Josh Allen, super stud. James Cook, super stud. We don't have one of those at receiver. We have one potentially at tight end with Kincaid. This team is built around basically talent and trust. They need to go out there and need to make these plays. I see Jordan Hancock can play outside as well. I don't see the Bills using them that way, but if they needed to, they could. So we got knocked down 7. Let's stand up 8. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. I like that attitude. But guys, yeah, heck yeah. Could you imagine we win 4 in a row? Yeah, I could. We did it last year. We had to because we only lost 4 games. We gave the last to the Patriots. Yeah. I could see us starting the season off with 4 straight wins. That's in my background. Holy shoot. There it goes. The yawning starts. Baltimore, New Jersey Jets, Miami, New Orleans. Yeah. The only one who could really throw a wrench in that one for me is Baltimore. We could win. We could go 6-0 for all I know. Baltimore's not usually that good week one. The Bills, we're kind of 50-50 on week one, so we'll see what happens there. So if we beat Baltimore, I think we smoked the Jets, we smoked the Dolphins, we smoked the Saints, we beat the Patriots, and then we have the Falcons. I think we beat them too. Then we don't lose after the bye weeks, and we got Carolina after the bye. Yeah, we could start the season off like 7-0, possibly. Oh, 4 Super Bowls. You talking about winning 4 Super Bowls in a row? If we did that, that would be the ultimate FU to history and to everybody who ever said you can't win a Super Bowl. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Draw 4. Color's blue. Because for real, we got the potential. We do have the potential, and we have a good GM who does mostly good contracts. The Von Miller one's the bad one that comes to mind for everybody, I know. But you look at most of the contracts, he's got an out after 2 years. For the wily veterans, he brings them in at a decent number, gives them a couple void years. The cap's going to go up every year, so those void years are going to mean less and less as you go forward. Yeah, the Bills have really good potential. They have really good young players. They have a lot of youth on this team. I think we were one of the older teams in the league last year, and I think now we're one of the younger teams because of all the moves we made on defense. Gerard Scott, let's go, baby. How you doing, boss? I remember you. But I want to shout out everybody in the crowd. Gerard Scott, Bobby Hall, John Robert, Miss Cheryl Puccio, Sandra L. King, my man Jacob in the building, Kim Boomhauer. You guys are always great. Steve Noble, Christopher L. Roseborough. You guys are not forgotten. Ryan Pixton, keeping going. A lot of John Robert. Tom WV, Bills fan for life. I'm guessing you are from West Virginia or went to West Virginia. Miss Nancy, Miss Diane Berard Raymond. Yeah, all of you guys. TJ Paluca. Thank you all for your comments and for being here to do the show. Byron Oaks, let's go. Glad Diva Stefan is gone. He had to go, man. He had to go. It was either him or Josh, and it wasn't going to be Josh. So I'll say that. But guys, that is my show today. Much love to all of you. Shout outs to everybody. You guys have a great Sunday. I will not be on again next week. After that, shouldn't be a problem being on week to week. Next week, going to spend the 4th of July down in Florida with my family. And, yep, we'll be doing some tours around some parks. So you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Go Bills. Much love. We out of here. Take care of yourselves.